this is RadTechShoe, and I have another rad review for you, and in this review we're going to be looking at Persona 5, the 5th installment in the Persona series by Atlus. We're going to be looking at this game, and it is quite a surprising game, and I can't wait to get right into it, so let's go ahead and jump into the story. The story follows you, the protagonist. You are a high school student that is transferring schools due to a criminal background that you have, and at your new school, you quickly discover this alternate physical universe known as the Metaverse. It is a physical manifestation of distorted and twisted desires by corrupt people. And if the corruption and the distortion is strong enough within one particular individual, it forms a palace, this giant area where that you're gonna travel through, fight enemies, and fight the super boss at the top and defeat that super boss. The reason you go to this universe, this alternate universe, and fight these distorted desires is to change the hearts of people. Obviously, there are corrupt authority figures. We know this is a fact in our world, so in this game, it's no surprise that there are corrupt authority figures there as well. By going to this alternate universe and fighting the source of these distorted desires, you are, in a way, indirectly changing the hearts of these corrupt individuals. So the authority figures that are corrupt at the top and abusing their authority and power over others, you are able to make them have a complete change of heart. They pull a complete 180 and they confess to everything that they've done wrong, all the corruption that they're guilty of, all the wrongdoing, all the abuse that they've done. It's a nice way of you enacting your own sense of vigilante justice, but since you're doing it in an alternate universe, you're technically not guilty of any type of, use of force on the person in the real world. However, there is the risk that you kill people. You run the risk of killing the people you're trying to force the change of heart on. So that becomes a plot point later on. And that's pretty much the general gist of the storyline. You're this high school student, you form a bunch of friends, and you and your friends go into this alternate universe and fight these distorted desires of these twisted, corrupt humans, and then you force them to have a change of heart, and you just go from target to target, dungeon to dungeon, until ultimately the game reveals the overall true plot of what's going on. And I'm not going to spoil that, but it's a very good game. It's a unique storyline. It has a lot of believable characters and depth to some of the characters. Some of the characters that you really don't care for, but some of the other characters and friends that you make are actually very good, and you kind of feel for them and you form a bond with them. So the story in this game is interesting. It's fun. It's just like any other previous Persona game. You're pretty much a high school vigilante enacting your own sense of justice. Next up is the combat system. The combat system is your standard turn-based RPG. You take a turn, you're done attacking, then the next person takes their turn, and so on and so forth, and you'll have a party of several people, and you can have 4 active on the field at one point, and you can switch them out. And the purpose of the fighting is to pretty much, it's elemental advantage. There are multiple different elements: fire, ice, nuclear, holy, curse attacks. There are a variety of elemental attacks as well as physical attacks. There are melee damage and gun damage. And you use these attacks to take advantage of your opponent's weaknesses. Take advantage of their weaknesses to deal additional damage and to gain additional turns. Gain the advantage and just beat down your opponents in standard turn-based fetch. This is nothing new for RPGs, nothing new to the Persona franchise. If you're new to the Persona franchise, don't worry, it's turn-based, it's somewhat beginner-friendly in terms of, you don't have to make a quick turn or have split-second decisions. You can literally, it'll be your turn, you can put the controller down, go to the bathroom, come back, make a sandwich, come on back to the game, and then nothing's changed. So the turn-based combat system is fairly unique. There's more to it, but that's the basic gist of the combat system. It's fairly easy to understand once you start playing it enough, and just expose the weaknesses of your opponents. However, they can also do the same to you. You have weaknesses, your teammates have weaknesses, and they can take advantage of your elemental weaknesses so that they can deal additional damage and gain additional turns. So be wary of that and understand that it's pretty much like a giant version of rock, paper, scissors. Take advantage of your opponent's weaknesses, try to stop them from doing the same to you, and win the fight. Now when it comes to the audio-visual aspect of this game has some pretty good visuals. The anime cutscenes, they're not too frequent, but when they are, they're a nice change of pace. However, the standard, cutscenes and the standard gameplay that you see, all the time throughout the game is what you've come to expect from the Persona franchise. It's not as No, the borders and the thick graphics aren't as noticeable as they used to be back on their PS2 counterparts of like Persona 3 and 4, but they're still noticeable. But it's part of the charm of the Persona franchise is to have these slightly thicker shades of borders and stuff like that in the borderlines of characters. So it's part of the charm of the franchise. Now that's the visual aspect of it. The audio aspect of the game is relatively interesting. The battle themes are not too bad. The boss themes are bitchin'. I love the boss themes music in this game. And the rest of the soundtrack is pretty okay. It's a pretty decent soundtrack overall. There are a lot of songs you're never gonna forget or never gonna wanna, you won't care to know. But there is a nice casual flow to some of the scenes and stuff like that. Whether you're just spending time with someone, the music's nice and smooth. And when certain plot points come up, when dialogue is being exchanged, the tension of the music ramps up just a little bit to let you know, hey, this is kind of important. So the music in this game is pretty damn good. Not the greatest soundtrack ever, obviously. But it's still, I think it's a good job. Shoji Meguro does another good job with Persona 5 soundtrack, as well as some of the good lyric songs, I believe by Lynn. She does pretty good with her renditions of certain battle themes and boss themes herself. So the soundtrack is pretty good. Battle themes and boss themes are pretty good. The rest of the soundtrack is okay. But audio-visual wise, this game is not too bad. Now when it comes to additional mechanics, holy shit, is this game got a lot going on. This game has so much. Let's get right into it. Okay, so remember how I mentioned your friends, they're going to be following you into combat. Well, they also have personas that you can use. The personas are pretty much part of the combat system where you use them to enact magical attacks. The personas are pretty much like demonic Pokemon. Think of it like that. However, your teammates can only have one persona. You, however, are the wild card. You have the ability to capture multiple personas and switch between them on the fly. And each persona has its own unique set of abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. So switching from persona to persona mid-fight and using them and getting kills with them and leveling them up so that they learn even better skills on their own as you level up as well, it's very important that you capture as many personas as possible so you have many opportunities and options at your disposal should tough situations arise. So it's very important that you not only fight these persona and exploit their weaknesses, but try to obtain as many as possible. One of the easiest ways to do that is to expose all their weaknesses, stun them all, and then you go up to interrogate them. You can either bum rush all of them at once with an all-out attack and try and kill them and deal massive damage to all of them, or you can try and recruit them one by one to your side. It's not a given. There are online guides to figure out what the best dialogue choices are for trying to convince certain personas, because certain personas have different personalities, and therefore the same line won't work for everyone. So it's important that you pay attention to your persona count and that you recruit as many as you can. Now, your friendships are also important. This game has a social aspect. Outside the RPG world, outside the metaverse, where you're not fighting, you're literally walking around, you're a normal high school student, and you have to engage in social skills. You have to do well on your tests. You have to improve your personal character traits, like your knowledge, your charm, your kindness, your proficiency, and your courage. You need to increase those. It's important that you increase those because it allows you to form better friendships and bonds with other people, not just the people that you fight with, but other random people like your teacher, a nurse, pretty much the guy who's your guardian who's taking care of you, Sojiro. There's a variety of other people that you want to meet out and about in the cities. The reason you want to meet them and form bonds with them is so that they give you special bonuses. These bonuses usually result in the form of abilities. So the more time you spend with your friends outside of combat and strengthen your bonds of friendship with them, starting from level 1 maxing out at 10, the more time you spend with them, you'll level them up, and the more you level them up, the more special additional abilities you get, like the ability to help each other recover from status ailments without the need to use an item. These are very, very important abilities. They're very useful, and they make some of the fights so much easier. I cannot stress that enough. So it's important to form bonds of friendship with, a variety of people. And one of the ways that you do that is by leveling up, like I said, your knowledge, your charm, your kindness, your proficiency. Because there are some times where if your kindness isn't strong enough, isn't high enough, you won't be able to initiate conversations with these characters until your kindness reaches a certain level or your knowledge reaches a certain level. They'll pretty much say, hey, I want to talk, but you're not quite at the level where I need you to be to help understand my problems. It's a way for the game to incentivize not only strengthening yourself, but also strengthening the bonds with your friends. Strengthening the bonds of friendship is also important because it allows you to gain bonuses when fusing personas. There's an additional area called the Velvet Room where you go to meet Igor. Igor is a returning character once again in the Persona franchise in the Velvet Room. He offers you the ability to fuse personas. Sacrifice 2 personas, create a stronger one. Eventually you'll gain access to the point where you can sacrifice up to 6 personas to create one super god powerful persona. And when I say god powerful, we're talking, yes, we're talking gods, because there's a variety of personas here from different lores and you know, legends, you know, stories and stuff like that. Even biblical gods are making an appearance here. It's very important that you do everything that you can to strengthen all the bonds of friendship that you can. Spend more time out and about. Read books to gain more knowledge and proficiency in others' personal skills and stuff like that. There's a variety of other things you can do. You can go to the batting cages. There's so much going on in this game. I really can't sum it up here. I need to cut this section short, and I need to move on to the final section. But there is so much shit to do in this game outside of combat. I kid you not. You will be playing this game for over 100 hours. I can almost guarantee it. Now, when it comes to extra or additional content, there's quite a lot of free DLC associated with this game, as well as some other DLC that's not associated. There are alternate costumes from different titles from Atlas that you can download. Some of them are free, some of them are not. I chose to buy the outfit from Catherine, because let's face it, Catherine's one of my favorite PS3 games of all time, and it's also made by Atlas. So the fact that there's a lot of costumes and, you know, outfits from previous Atlas titles that you can give to characters here in this game, that's just a lot of fun. The nostalgia just comes back and hits you. However, if you're not into that DLC, what happens when you beat the game? Well, then you get New Game Plus. You start the game over from the beginning, but you get to carry over certain things. You carry over the Persona Compendium, the roster of all the personas that you've seen or captured. You get to carry that over. You get to carry the experience over of how much of the personas you've fought and captured. You don't get to carry them over in terms of having them in your inventory. You get to carry over certain items. You do not, however, get to carry over your confidant relationships, the relationships you share with your friends. You don't get to carry them over, so they all start over from, you know, level 1 all over again. So if you didn't max them all out in the first game, you're going to have to do it again in the second game. So there's a lot. New Game Plus is just pretty much easy mode on steroids. I'm not going to lie. You also carry over all the money. So if you had hundreds of thousands of dollars saved up, well, there's pretty much nothing you can't get early on. You also carry over some of your weapons. The weapons that you had equipped when the game was beat, you carry them over as well. So instead of having like a level 20, you know, a dagger that only does like 50 damage, you'll have a dagger that does, you know, like 200 damage. So you'll be running around and you'll be able to melee stuff and just beat them into oblivion with your guns and melee weapons. It's easy. You know, like I said, New Game Plus is easy mode, especially if you set it on easy difficulty. So New Game Plus is fun. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it because you can make it. You can choose to make hard. You know, you can choose to do normal mode the first time and then hard mode the second time for New Game Plus. And now that you have more resources, it won't be that hard. So, New Game Plus, totally worth it. And I recommend that you try New Game Plus, see if it makes you want to play the game through a second time. I've beaten the game twice. I don't plan on going through a third time because I got that Platinum Trophy, baby. So, I got the Platinum Trophy. I had to get it, you know, I just had to. So I grinded it out and I put almost 200 hours into this game and I got it. So, anyway, that's going to do it for my rad review of Persona 5. Overall, I give it a solid 8 out of 10. I can't give it anything higher because, quite frankly, RPGs aren't as popular with some other people. There are people that love first-person shooters and action-adventure games, and they're not willing to put that time and effort into this game, so it's not going to appeal to them. It's just not one of those, you know, it's an acquired taste. RPGs are an acquired taste, especially hardcore JRPGs like this one. It gets an 8 out of 10. It doesn't have the greatest combat system in terms of, I really, really hate it if the main character dies. If any of the other people in your team get knocked out, they can be revived. However, if you die, game over. Even if everyone else in your party is still alive, if you die, game over. I hate that. I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. So it gets an 8 out of 10, and that's going to do it for my rad review of Persona 5. A solid game, otherwise a worthy entry into the Persona franchise. And that does it, and I will see you all later. Thank you all for joining me and watching my rad review, and I will see you guys all next time.